Face Value, in collaboration with African Media Association, Migrants Commission, and 103 Malta's Heart.
Hi, I'm Elena.
And I am Rachel.
And we welcome you to another episode of Face Value, where we explore the relationships of people from different nationalities living here in Malta.
Today we have in the studio with us Adam and Clive, who started their relationship from their profession of filmmaking here in Malta. Welcome to the studio, guys.
Hello.
Of nervousness.
Okay. So let's start with Adam. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Of course, my name is Adam Żurawiecki.
Okay.
I'm originally Polish, and I came here to Malta 3.5 years ago, and I love making movies since I remember.
Okay, and Clive?
Hello, I'm Clive Brinkat. I work as a director of photography, and I am Maltese, obviously living here in Malta for now.
Okay.
I might add that I'm directing.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I know that director of photography, is there a difference when you say director? I just thought that director is a director. So basically, what does being a director, what does it look like for you?
Well, if the question is what's the difference?
Yes, director of photography, right?
Yes.
So basically, my responsibilities are connected more with delivering the concept of the movie, the whole idea, keeping, let's say, the story together, and trying to build one consistent way of narrative flow, I would say. And therefore I need a good DOP, director of photography, who can take on his back responsibility of building and delivering beautiful images that are actually let's say that go together with the idea that I have as a director in my mind. Okay. So we have to cooperate, we have to agree on certain things, like on every level basically. But let's say Clive doesn't have to direct the actors.
The actors and
he can obviously tell them to reposition a little bit.
Maybe Clive want to tell us about
Yes.
Yeah, so basically in a nutshell, director has the overall vision of the project, what he wants to achieve. Director of photography is there, to get that vision, and actually, implement, do the execution, to meet the vision of the director. Basically, a director of photography, also known as cinematographer, basically is kind of the head of department for 3 departments actually, which is lighting, grip, and camera, and with all these elements put together, obviously, we capture, the image, according to the story, and.
So when you say photography, is it just still pictures?
It's because when people hear photography, they think of someone with camera and photos, but in reality, film is photos, just a bunch of photos, 25, 24, or whatever frames per second you are capturing, the.
Yeah, because like you said, people think, I thought that just pictures like I know
You
it
are
to be.
No.
Yes.
No, yeah.
So I think that explains why the relationship between both of you, because you said the director generally has a vision of the storyline, and you have to, in your own activities, produce
how are we gonna shoot this,
Yes, there is. Yes, like Clive said, he's responsible for 3 departments, right? Camera, light, and grip. And there are more. There is wardrobe. There is makeup.
Of course.
There's plenty of others.
Yes.
And the director is actually creating, let's say, this vision with
all the other things.
Yeah, with all of them together. And above us, there is always a producer who comes in and says, like, no.
We don't have enough money. Yeah, so basically every department in reality has to be, is a very collaborative effort, movie making. Like I said, a DP, has his own departments, but I would be also very much, in touch with wardrobe, which is the department which handles the costumes and everything, and also the art department, which are responsible for props, the visual aspects of the room, because obviously in the end I want to achieve a certain image, and the image I can't achieve it alone, you know. You know, there's lighting, there's cameras, lenses, but also I need good colors, good color palettes, you know, predetermined color palettes, which the costumes and the, you know, and the art department, you know, are in sync, you know, together.
So it's a lot of teamwork, right?
Yes,
That's a team, totally like a team effort.
Yes.
Because even if I have a vision, like I have to discuss with Clive, like, okay, how are we going to dress up this person? Because, you know, I don't want to, I cannot just say like, no, it has to be a green jacket because it doesn't make sense, you know. Things has to, so yes, it's a teamwork basically.
Clive, how long have you been working in this field, and what got you interested in working in this area in the first place?
Okay, so how long? I think I started actually in 2018. It's not too, it's not too long ago actually. What got me interested? Well, I was always interested in like I was always into arts from forever. Like I was first, you know, as a child, you know, into painting, you know, and everything. But how I actually got in this was kind of like not accidental, like I didn't try to, it just happened, to be honest, you know. I was just doing as a side hobby, you know, just doing, you know, have a small camera, doing some, you know, shoots hobbyists would do, and suddenly, you know, people were contacting me to do video for this and that, you know, and I started like that slowly, and you know,
interesting. So like a very organic way of growing through word of mouth,
completely, you know.
But in 2018 you became a professional? You took it full time?
I think it only actually took me like 6 months to like quit everything and take it full time.
Six
It was like
months?
so fast. Everything
Yeah.
happened so fast. Yes, but obviously, you know, it was still kind of semi-pro. You know, at that time, you know, it was
Yeah,
very, you know, like I think filmmaking is such a vast. You know, it's a never-ending, you know, learning.
That's true.
You know, so. The more you learn, kind of, the more you know, you don't know.
Sure. And what brought you to Malta?
Actually, filmmaking. But like I discovered this beautiful place almost 6 years ago, I would say. I was living in Paris at that time, and I came here for vacation basically. But my mind was always open for like a place where I could settle and develop my career as a director. Because previously I was doing mostly commercials, and when I came here first time, I just realized that this place has a tradition in movie making, which is actually great. That there are huge productions being done here, that there is, let's say, a lot of people that I could actually meet and learn from, and actually I thought like that's the place for me.
Before then, you've been living where?
I'm all my life I've been living in Poland, and then just for 2 years with little breaks in Paris. So, but I used to travel a lot for work. So, well, basically, at some point I just decided that it's not. I have to go out and just change something, which was a decision connected with some life situation as well as professional situation. Sometimes you need a bit of a shake to, you know, to find your way. And then Malta came across, and I'm like, okay, that's the place. And here I am.
And here you are.
So you first got into it through commercials, and then it transitioned.
Yes,
It didn't transition into film until you moved here.
I can say that's true, because I did only one short film when I was in Poland, and I was already aware how things work on the set. But the problem was I was an in-house director in a big company, and there was no time for making it in a way that I wanted to make it. And besides, I think that while I'm here, I have more chances to like, I like working in, let's say, using English and being like, let's say, even the problems and ideas I have, they are, let's say, more international. We spoke about it before, but so yeah, I can say that my true experience with film started here in Malta, even as a technician on big productions. Like I saw that how it works really, and let's say, quote unquote Hollywood, right? how guys do it, because I didn't know before. I did hundreds of commercials and I did big sets, And now I know that some of them were not really that much different of those big film productions, but I didn't know about it before. So now it's time to take the experience, put it all together, and try to make the dream come true. Because
So
I
how did
always
you
wanted
guys start working together?
Just recently.
Yeah. The question is how, or
Yes, how?
Oh, how? Sorry.
So we have another friend of ours, Martin Bonici. Greetings for him. And at some point, I was looking for a director of photography, and I was a little bit like, okay, what should I do, Martin? Like, and he was like, oh, I got this great guy here. Like, check his portfolio. And it took me, I don't know, 5 minutes just to realize that I have the guy. So I called him up, and then we met next day in the morning, and we talked, and that was it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna work with you. So,
And how has the experience been for you, Clive? Working with Adam.
Working with Adam. No. I mean, on a whole, it's great. There's obviously lots and lots, to lots of factors which needs to be improved from. But after every shoot, I'm usually like that, like most. After every shoot, okay, I appreciate, and I'm grateful for what we've done, but I always find, I try to nitpick all the little or big issues, rather than focus on just, oh, a great job, I'm always focused on the nitpicks of what we need to improve, because in the end, that's how, you need to, to grow, if you're just, oh, okay, great job,
Relax.
Do you think that is received sometimes well and sometimes not, depending on the environment?
Excuse me?
So, like, for example, you're saying it's important to have that level of constructive criticism in a sense.
Oh,
because
I think
that's
it's
how you excel in your
I think
work.
it's everything. Which, to be honest, sometimes I think I beat myself a little bit too much, But on the whole, yes, that's me. I try to, to always, you have to always listen. Even if you have like great budget and everything, there's always compromise. Sometimes even like big Hollywood films, they have some compromises, let alone, when you're working with, small, much smaller budgets.
exactly.
So there's obviously lots of, compromises, but having said that, even though obviously you have to obviously stay grounded and know your current situation, it's different if you're working on a $50,000 budget than millions,
So you kind of adjust depending on
you
the
have to
context you're
factor in,
inside.
the conditions you're working in. Obviously, you can't done, but still, there's always stuff which could have made it better, relevant of the situation and circumstances, and conditions you're working in, I think.
But before now, have you ever worked with foreigners? Have you traveled abroad for work before now?
Yes, I had some experience in the US, but mostly like it's been Malta so far, Yeah.
I wanted to compare working abroad and working in Malta, like working with maybe people you've known in the industry for years, and then working with a new person who is just joining the industry in Malta. How has it been for you?
Excuse me, Kate.
So probably you've worked abroad before and working with people who you've always known in the industry before. Say you've been working with Elena 5 years ago and somebody's just coming to join the industry in
Yes.
Malta. How is there anything different in the work ethic for you?
How is it different of someone new coming in?
Yes.
Usually, I'm always excited about someone new coming in actually to work with us, because especially when they're coming from different countries,
Yes.
because while on the whole, there's lots of similar, obviously, and like, how do you explain?
The workflow.
The workflow is always kind of similar, wherever you go,
yes,
but there's
the same
always
time.
those little things which, for example, Americans or British, or Polish,
Sure.
everyone has their own ways and ways of
Exactly.
communicating. But there's always a little bit to learn from everyone in reality, It's always just
Okay,
positive.
we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion about working abroad, working with foreigners, and working with locals. How has the experience been? The program is still Face Value. Don't go away.
Face Value, in collaboration with African Media Association, Migrants Commission, and 103 Malta's Heart.
And we're back with Face Value 103 Malta's Heart. Together with Rachel, today we're joined by Adam and Clive, and who are talking about their experience through their shared work through film. And my understanding is it is on the one hand, a very niche experience and environment to work in, and then on the other hand, it seems also a bit like cloudy, the whole understanding as to how someone starts working in film in the first place. Like for Clive's experience, it seems like it ended up being a very organic system, like through word of mouth and so on. And I was curious a bit more, like for you, Adam, what really got into this system? Like, do you identify with the experience that Clive had? Was it as like maybe simple to put it in layman's terms, or
I think it's quite different.
Okay.
To become let's say to achieve the level of work that Clive's have and have his position here, especially on the local market. Mm-hmm. It takes something different for a director. I cannot say I'm a director yet, you know. I just made my short film, basically, which I'm kind of happy about, but that's, you know, it's a long way ahead, you know, a long way to go. And the problem is that it's also a skill that you have to develop, but it's also sort of like you have to train your personality, like not to be, let's say, people have to trust you somehow, right? So it's like an overall training, and then at the end of the day, the point is that you meet a producer who will trust you, that you will take his budget and lead the team in a way that it will be successful at the end. Successful, which means everything will be shot, the story will be told, and you will not go over budget, over hours and whatever, so it will work. And to actually achieve that, I think it's a very long way because of this complexity and all that. And well, I know how to do that in commercials, and I can say, yes, I'm a commercial director. I know how to execute them.
And what got you into commercials in the first place?
Well, long story as well, but
we have time.
Yeah, I mean, it all started. Well, I always wanted to make like films. When I was a kid, I was stealing a camera from my father, who wasn't really happy about it, and then editing things on VHS to VHSs and putting some music on, and basically having fun. And then throughout my life, I was always having a camera on my side. When I was this rollerblading professional, I would say. And I remember when I bought a Canon XM1, which was like the top gear for wedding specialists at the moment, and it wasn't really cheap for a guy who just went to studies. And whatever, I was shooting rollerblades and then spending hours in Adobe Premiere and just editing them. And on the side, because I had this camera, I could do some super cheap commercials, like, you know, some semi-professional things for people. And that's how it all started. But I always wanted to be, let's say, the director. Although there was a clash between me and my parents, because they thought that's just a, you know, lucid dream of some sort. And they said, like, no, you're going to be a lawyer. No. Okay, no, not so I went to law. I entered the studies. It was really difficult, but then I quit because I just looked around and I'm like, oh my God, this is not a place for me. You know, all those people with that kind of special way of seeing things. So then they said, okay, there is this, so go to social science if you don't. I'm like, okay.
So they were deciding what were.
Of course, I mean, like, no, I want to go to film school. And we have good film schools in Poland. We have Łódź Film School, which is super famous and it's always like top 5 in the world. And then there is another one, which is in Katowice, which is also very well. Now there is more. I don't want to mention all of them because they are private and nobody pays me for that. So, but the thing is, like, I said, okay, I want to go here and there. And before I even started putting my papers in, there was this other exam to another university for social science, and my parents were on my back so much that they said, okay, if you're gonna get there, we leave you alone. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna go to the social science, and they're gonna finally say, okay, you know, you're fine, right? Because there was a big war in my house when I quit law, like, you know, such a prestigious studies, like, oh, you made your biggest mistake in your life. Well, I don't think so, but okay. So I finished the social science, and then I still had the camera on the side all the time. And I was doing these rollerblading edits and all that stuff. Then
but
after
the professional rollerblading, could you have made a career out of that?
I thought so when I was young, but then I reached the level where I was actually an international professional, and I was earning such a, I wasn't earning enough to make a living out of that. That was a nice thing as a student to have like a pocket money for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was receiving, well, it was a beautiful industry, but it's very small. So when you are a professional, and I even had a product with the name of my name on it.
Cool.
So it was a real pro career, sort of.
So
but
like the money is like based on prizes from like competitions and maybe sponsorships?
Sponsorships that, well, even nowadays, only nowadays for like past 2-3 years, the rollerblading industry came back to life, sort of. So the best skaters in the world can be paid for their living. They can actually live out of that. But I doubt they can buy a villa and you know. And,
Not everybody wants to buy a villa anyway.
well, but you know, sometimes people think like, oh, you're a pro, and there was time in skateboarding, and there is still like, for instance, there are sports like skiing or snowboarding where when you are a pro, you can go to Olympics, and then well, it's a fully like that's a fully
sector,
developed sector, but not rollerblading. So at that time, I was just the whole benefits was like free T-shirts, free skates, which was already cool because it was expensive. So I was receiving like tons of
So how did you
stuff.
now become a professional, like started shooting commercials professionally?
How that started?
So after you studied, you got into
Yes,
this
I got
profession?
in because I started with working in a advertising agency as a copywriter, basically. And then I moved to another town, which was bigger agencies. I started to search for a job as a copywriter, and one company said like, okay, listen, you are not, they were using very particular words to describe how bad I am as a copywriter, but then they saw that I have all those edits and skate edits and little commercials that I did throughout the years in my portfolio, and they said, listen, we are starting a studio. So which will be like a sister's company of our advertising agency, because normally it doesn't look like that. Advertising agency is not a production house, which is, that are completely different instances of this.
So originally, you didn't start out as being shooting commercials, basically. It's something that happened over time.
Yes, I mean, I started doing little ones, but they weren't really professional. Then I started as an editor in a big studio, and I edited, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of them, and they were like they were released in TV in Poland and Czech Republic, and the company was growing. And at some point, I just went to my boss and said, listen, you have to let me direct it, because I just see how can and that was actually, I thought it's going to be easy, and it wasn't really that easy at the beginning, you know.
Clive, for you, how does the industry work in Malta? So is it something that you do as a freelancer, or is there an agency you can work with, or you have to own your own companies, stuff like that? How does it happen?
So most of the jobs comes through agencies, actually.
So do you have to work in-house with them, or you can be on your own? The agency contacts
Like,
you?
I mean, I work as a freelance, you know. I'm not like fully. Most of the people in our industry is actually freelance, you know. So basically, agencies will have different clients. Obviously, the agencies, you know, will approach me or other producers, you know, to obviously shoot or produce their
because I was trying to figure out the difference between the scenario is painting from Poland and how it works.
It's pretty similar, I think. Yeah. It's pretty similar.
There's a system like you have a client, you have agency, then the agency choose production house, and production house choose talents, which Clive would be considered as a
very rarely do companies approach you directly, because the big companies, you know, or even those who have a marketing department with them still would have an external marketing agency, you know, to handle these stuff. So I mean, if you go to very small, you know, beginner jobs, then you're probably dealing with smaller clients, and the smaller clients would approach a videographer separate. I mean, directly, directly, because they probably a small company, so they don't have a marketing agency.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. You mentioned the smaller companies. So how did you start out? Did you start with the smaller companies or the big companies?
So when you start off, obviously, I was obviously always approached by this, you know, small companies, you know, approach you directly. But obviously, as you grow, then obviously now it's, I think, like 90, almost 99, or all jobs are through agencies.
Wow.
Is it easy to make a name for yourself in Malta, given that objectively the space is smaller, or does that bring more competition?
No, it's easier, I think. I mean, Okay, I think Malta is actually okay. So even if you're, I think, average skill, experience, and everything, I think in Malta that's enough to make a living
can get
actually in
by.
our industry.
Okay.
Now, if you're that person who really wants, to push
Yeah,
the boundaries of,
so-
and try to always, it's gonna be much easier because
So
it's
is
a small country, so there's only enough
Yeah, I was
people
going
which
to
could
say,
be,
is this something that has to do with the industry having limited hands?
I mean, there's obviously small island, so it's surprising how much work there is for the when you compare it to the size, I think, of the country.
Yeah.
Um,
And also big demand from like foreign productions doing
Exactly.
films
yes,
here
yes.
as well, right?
I don't think there's enough people to cater for the demand, but I think in the future we will get there. I think also like the film commissioner are doing, I think, are trying to push people to, get into this industry.
Yeah, I
So-
think I was actually surprised, but very like positively surprised when I was just
Is
driving.
this something that is? Was this something that attracted you or that motivated you to stay back when you came to Malta?
to stay.
To stay in Malta, like, oh, okay, this
Well,
looks like
but it's not only the factor of like I came in the time when the COVID arrived, so my start here was actually a bit.
wasn't promising. especially-
Yes, I mean, so I had to fall in love with this place somehow to stay, even though I couldn't even go out and interact with people at some point. But I mean, yes, I see the changes. I see that there is a vision. I can see it from a political, even from the political perspective. Film is something that people, let's say, go together. Like there is no argue that the film should be something which Malta should be proud of and work on and put more and more efforts to.
I mean, with all the heritage. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and that actually looks very promising for the future. I feel very confident about the fact that that's the place to be if you are a filmmaker, and that's actually that's a good place.
For you, Clive, so when the foreign producers or whoever, I don't know how it works, come into Malta for their production, do they bring their crew or they work with the local?
So usually when a foreign production, a movie from wherever it comes to Malta, the main people, heads of departments, normally they're already chosen
A
and come
team,
from
yeah.
abroad. Then from Malta they will hire people like, for instance, in my departments, like first ACs, which are camera assistants, and grips, But usually, obviously, the director is already,
On board?
commissioned and contracted from abroad. The director of photography, is usually already chosen by the director or producer.
Okay, so you guys don't get to work all the time with them in your own capacity, but you can use your equipment.
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
The only way to work with them is to obviously to take different roads, which obviously we're not actually doing, because I never was a first AC, for example. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
go and work as a first camera assistant.
Yeah, and it's very interesting what Clive is saying right now, because for me, I thought when I came here that it's going to be the way to let's say to develop a skill or something, to go to the big movies and well, it was interesting to see how it works, but I just realized that by charging batteries on the big set, I'm not going to become a director,
Yeah,
even
because they already have their team.
no, that's obvious that works like that. But to develop your skill, you have to work as a director to become a better director, because as Clive said before, you are learning every day and there is always something to improve. You're gonna improve nothing if you're gonna charge the batteries as a second AC in your directing skills, because you probably don't even see what the director is doing, So that's not the way to do. To do it, you have to do it yourself, make mistakes, learn on your mistakes, and improve. And there will be always something to improve. So
Do you think the fact that you can work into an international environment, because it seems like many times you're quite accustomed to working with foreigners and with
Yes.
Maltese people, vice versa. Do you think this is like an added potential, that everyone brings a different skill and a different experience from a different environment that allows it to like flourish in a different way, or the ways of and techniques are pretty much common knowledge throughout?
I would say yes and no.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like I mentioned before, like there's always like common techniques, which there's safety, you know, and everything is kind of, you know, universal. How does a grip hold stand, you know, or the electrical, you know, it's pretty much the same. It's just maybe different flows. Vary a bit, or like minor stuff which varies, you know.
There is a code of like how you communicate on the set, and there are certain things that even if you don't, if a particular set is being run by majority of people from a certain country, you will quickly learn, they mean this.
Yeah, for example, okay, like now I think like 80 or 90% of my crew are always like foreign, not Maltese, right? But at the first, you know, when I first started working with British or Italian or whatever, I struggled a bit to communicate, you know, in a different language because they're used to, you know, certain ways of communicating on set. So
does that ever bring to miscommunications, you know, because then you're working in such a close environment.
It sometimes leads to miscommunication, or it leads to having to spend twice the time or more to actually communicate and, you know, get across your message. But, you know, that's just a few days of practice, and
then you get right into the environment of that. Okay.
And you get used to the people. They know what you need just without actually saying a word.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we'll be going on another break now, and the program is still Face Value on 103 Malta's Hearts. Please don't go away.
Face Value, in collaboration with African Media Association, Migrants Commission, and 103 Malta's Heart.
And we're back on Face Value 103 Malta's Heart together today with Rachel. We're again joined with Adam and Clive, and we're at the last portion of the show, discussing the reality of filmmaking and how the international environment also works in filmmaking in Malta, which I found very interesting. But I was curious to understand, Clive, you had mentioned that you had also worked in the US. You had opportunities to work abroad. I was curious to see how does that experience compare to working in film in Malta?
Well, I mean, in terms of experience, it was like brilliant, exceptional. But I am a little bit biased for the US. But obviously, I mean, the US. I mean, for me, it feels like a playground for us. Like, I mean, we're so used to watching, you know, American movies. You know, that when I go there, I find it like 10 times easier to film. You know, I can film anything with much less effort, and still, I can get, you know, so much more than somehow I get here. I don't know if it's because I don't live there. So, you know, when you go abroad, you know, when foreigners come here and they see stuff that I can't see as a Maltese, you know, because I'm so, you know, I'm so used to everything, you know, that sometimes you need a little push for creativity. You
also,
know?
depending where you're going, I don't know where in the US you went specifically, then it becomes a very, how do you say, specialized industry, you know? For example, if you think only about California, for instance, but I mean also in many other states, they have really, really made a solid industry out of it, which maybe in other environments still is growing, you know, still evolving to a certain extent. Where have you been in the US for work?
For work, I've been mostly in the East Coast.
Okay.
East Coast and Atlanta. Atlanta is like a huge. It's less known when you think of you know, movies, you think of LA, but Atlanta is like the next, you know.
Okay.
It's a big thing, you know. There's lots of movies, you know. It's very big in the movie industry, and also in the music, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
So does that experience in any way affected you when you came back to Malta?
I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, I go there quite frequently, you could say. When I come back, I have like a post. How do you say PTSD?
For sure.
I mean, that's the truth. I know I shouldn't say that, but that's the truth, you know. Because it's obviously just for the first few weeks, but then obviously I mean, it inspires me to go there, come back. You know, you always get better, I guess.
No, so you say that when having a foreign or international experience actually makes you better when you come back to your craft.
Yes, of course.
And for Adam, I wanted to find it like, how has your experience been here, and what project are you working on currently?
Currently, I'm finishing project that we work on with Clive, and I have several other let's say writing projects that I'm developing, but those are like.
And in this project that you're working on, how has it been for you? What is different? What is new for you? And what is usual? You want to share your experience?
Well, what's new for me is that I did actually something which was my idea, which I've wrote. I've wrote a lot of stories in my life, but that's actually, I have to be honest, that's my first script which was actually formatted. And it's a short, but I'm happy about it. That encouraged me to work on this format and then develop more. So that was actually pretty cool to see how your ideas come to life with really great crew, and that was amazing.
So
That
how-
was one of a kind.
How is your group, your crew now? And what is this idea about? You want to share? I don't know if it's something you want to share.
You mean the one that I'm working on right
Yes,
now?
yes.
Well, I have few in development. One is actually, I don't want to say similar to what we did, but it's like a connection between an African country and let's say fighting with the cliche of how we persuade, let's say, people over there on the north. Let's say Africa is a huge continent, right? But I'm talking about particularly about Ghana, Nigeria, that kind of region. And how do we persuade them, and how they persuade us? As a lot of people still over there think that they're gonna come to Europe and everything, and life will become beautiful from one day to another one, which is not true. And it's not because someone is guilty for it. Just life looks a bit different. And at the same time, we think that that there are certain ways
Stonehenge.
I mean, I think that's. So I'm working on another concept which turns around a topic of being cursed in Africa, which is actually very interesting for me.
Yes.
And but it's also like I want to make like a parallel of like how much people who believe that being cursed is something. Well, I don't believe it's real, but that's just there. I also come from I don't want to say that being a believer is a bad thing, but it's all about like this story will be about finding the balance between cutting yourself off of being able to actually have influence on your own life, and this route when you say like, okay, it was all planned by some almighty force, and so I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna go because my life was already set. So this is like a deep story
What
behind.
is your crew like? Is it just people from?
No, for now I'm building the crew. To be
Okay.
quite honest, this project that we did with Clive together was a big surprise for me, because we have a friend who is actually his right hand in his department, Daniel, who just came here. I mean, I found him because I realized that we don't have people to make this short film. At some point, Clive said, like, no, we are not going. No, I mean, like, and I realized, okay, I have to find people in Poland, and I know a couple of, let's say, sources of good professionals over there. And old friend of mine said, like, listen, you know Daniel, but you know him from rollerblading, and you don't know that he's very good in this, lighting and this and that. So maybe he can help you out. And literally in 2-3 hours, he collected the whole crew for me.
Wow.
And they all, I booked the tickets for them. Next day, they recommended me a guy who helped us as well as a production assistant, because I had nobody. I was just alone at some point. And then at the end of the pre-prep, let's say, day before the shoot, it turned out that one more part of the crew is, let's say, needed because, we lost a person. I mean, lost, it's alive, but... And so I had to flew another person, and we were all working for the first time together, which was pretty, we are all kind of experienced in a way, but working first time is always something that you have to be ready to, let's say, to adjust the language, the code, to get the communication, to make it, right?
Clive, can you tell us a bit more about that experience? How was it with having a crew with all new people for the first time?
Working with a few people in a crew, new people in a crew is okay. Working with everyone in the crew, everyone new coming over, meeting them for the first time a day before the shoot is
Intense.
It's usually yes. is very challenging usually.
What were your expectations going into that?
I didn't go with any expectations, to be honest.
Whatever comes.
I just didn't. But luckily, basically, luckily they were all, very, very amazing professionals who knows what we're doing. So usually, in pre-production as a DP, I have all my lighting diagrams and sets. I literally document everything, and that's when you need to communicate, with the grip light and everyone, especially the gaffer who needs to know exactly. And what I really loved about these guys is that they were experienced enough to just show them a map of what we want, and boom, they find the solutions for it. Usually, more often than not, unfortunately, you have to kind of not babysit, but you have to give lots and lots and lots of detail. Listen, I want this. Maybe you could, give them sort of ideas how they can do it.
Yeah.
This guy, I want this, That's all he needs to know. He'll figure out how he's going to do it. And that was very, 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 very helpful, obviously, for me.
And this is one of the advantage of international collaborations and working with, being open-minded, like not doing what you are used to all the time, like working with the people you are used to all the time, and given a chance to work with maybe, he went without expectations and it worked well. I know that's not all the time. It
Works out that way. It also seems like such a big venture to have to hire also, members that are going to be from different nationalities and everything. It's like I guess you can only plan so much beforehand before, as you said, these technicalities can come in and you have to stay shifting all the time. It sounds very intense.
Well, it was. Excuse me?
It was a risk for you, no?
Oh my God.
It's always a risk.
Imagine that it was, look, like we first day of shoot was, let's say, Saturday afternoon, okay, because you have to, I was actually doing production over there as well, which is, I don't want to do production. I just want to say this out loud. But there was, actually my friend who was supposed to do it with me, he's, greetings for him as well. He's, let's say, our producer, but let's say on the terms of like support for festivals and this and that. And he was just busy doing his film. But he obviously helped me out a lot because he delivered the best sound guy I ever worked with so far. He actually helped me to, he invited the main cast from Ghana. And what I'm trying to say in terms of risk, like it's Wednesday afternoon and she still doesn't have a visa in her passport, and we shoot on Saturday here in Malta and she's still in Accra in Ghana. And I'm like, okay, what's now, right? And and then I contacted my second main cast, the lovely person Frida, greetings for Frida, and she's saying like, oh, I have to pray for the weather for Monday because it doesn't look very, very well, very good. And I'm like, Frida, you better pray for visa for Joyce because it's still not there. And then next day when I saw the picture on WhatsApp, I couldn't sleep actually, because imagine like I have a whole crew.
It all depends on this.
All depends on that. I'm like, it's too late to even find any replacement, alternative, because it wouldn't, like, I cannot imagine somebody saying yes.
At the end of the day, it worked. No?
Yes. And then Frida say like, you see, now don't ask me to pray for you to win on the lottery. I'm like, okay, sure. But it worked, and it was a huge risk, but it was worth it because you have to take a step like that if you want to improve something in your professional life. Otherwise, you will get nowhere.
Okay.
And that's it.
Away from that now, I wanted to find out, what do you love most about living in Malta?
I think the weather, actually. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, professionally, what do you love about
professionally?
Yes.
I think the perspective that actually I see right now, because as I said, I cannot call myself, I just did a short film. Now there is a feature that I hope we will work together on, which is, let's say, waiting for like an official green light and all this. So that's already a perspective for me to be, let's say, I'm the happiest man on earth, It's like for a director to get a feature to direct, it's a dream. And a lot of them at my age, some of them, they never do it. They stay in commerce, or like, they never have this chance. Because to have this chance, it's a long way, and you have to build the trust of somebody who will actually say like, okay, you're going to do it. And that's
you found that opportunity here.
Well, I believe that I'm going to find it, and I believe, yes, it's and I'm not going to move out. I love
You
it.
see?
Yeah.
Okay, and for you, Clive, what is that one thing that working with international companies or agencies and working with foreigners generally, what is that one thing that has struck you the most about such relationship? What is that one thing that you can pinpoint and say, because I work with foreigners, this is one thing I like about working with foreigners? Do you have that kind of experience?
Yes, yes. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I always like I mentioned before. I think 80, sometimes 90% of the people I work with are nowadays foreigners. So you better like it, or else, you know. No, but
Yeah,
generally, it's always a great experience. You know, and I can't think of one very bad experience done.
Do you have aspirations of pursuing your work abroad?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's something, which I guess I'm preparing for,
Okay.
It's just a matter of, finding the right opportunity. Because as much as I would go abroad in a heartbeat, I still have it very good over here. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Leave
very
everything
selective
behind.
with what opportunities I have abroad, because
course.
sometimes, there are opportunities,
what's
Also, because it seems like this is very heavily reliant on network. So
Yes,
here you have
it's
a
all
good
about
network
that,
that's
at this
established, yeah.
stage, So all you can do here is just prepare, I always try to invest, in myself, trying, to learn new things, the more you learn, the harder it gets, even though I have a long way to go, a never-ending, journey. It always gets harder, when you start off, you learn 20 things a day, the more you, not just in filmmaking, obviously, and everything you pursue, obviously.
Is it becoming more of a professional path? Because it's my understanding that you got into this very, freelance space, word of mouth, and then
Yes.
you develop your skill over and over. Are there things that now that are allowing it to become more of a professionalized industry?
I think it's already is very much,
Yeah.
it already is.
So if it
Very-
were this age, like this present time, you wouldn't have had it so easy like you had it in 2018, you think? So now, 2018 compared to now, for somebody,
Okay. No, for I think when dating was already, boom. It was already booming, I think, and I think it could only get better, I think.
course.
But
Would you have any advice for new young people who are interested in getting into this industry in Malta? Maybe things that they could focus on a bit more as they're getting into it?
I mean, it's
I made it
Should I say
complicated, I'm
advice would
sorry.
give them. I mean, because for me it's very simple. I mean, for me it's very simple. Like I tried lots of things. I graduated in this, that. I tried lots of things, but I was
Okay.
never kind of, happy, or passionate about whatever I was doing.
until this.
Luckily, I found, my calling, which is what I'm doing right now. And I think if you truly love the industry and love what you do, kind of everything starts to fall in place, like
Exactly.
slowly, you have to be patient, but
I would say the
It's-
same thing.
it's just love for what you do, in the arts of filmmaking, and then
Because if you love what you do, it's like a relationship with somebody you love. Like it's not
Yeah.
always perfect, but
like,
you love it.
like in my opinion,
Very
in my
romantic,
opinion,
right?
I think you love this industry. Like if you have like unlimited money in your bank account suddenly, like what would you do tomorrow? Like most
Okay.
people would quit their job in a heartbeat, and they would whatever tour the world. For me, I would just fund my films and I would work more and more, in this industry.
Yes, that's
Because
very interesting.
Just
that's
as
what
Yeah.
the only thing I want to do, basically. It's the only thing I care about, apart from my
You have this
fiancé.
urge to create art and so on.
Yes.
But I think that's true because even like for this short film, which was self-funded by myself, not everyone that knew how much effort and even finances I'm putting into it, even though like most of it was done pro bono and thank everybody for helping me out, because without them I wouldn't do anything. But still, it was a budget, and and it's like, what would you do with that kind of budget? If I would say to my friends, yeah, I bought a used car. Oh, very nice. What size of the rims you have? Or like, is it petrol or diesel or electric? Nobody would even care for the fact that I maybe don't have the money, or it's not the time for a new car. But when you make a project like that, people are like, but that's you are risking so much and this and that. I'm like, yeah, but I love it.
Yeah,
So what
you
can I
love
do?
it. So it's important to find where your heart beats, basically, and do what you love. That is the only thing that can sustain you through the troubles. Okay, it has been an
True.
interesting conversation. Today we've discussed about filmmaking and all the different directors and the different crew members. We've learned about that. Thank you for coming to the studio and discussing this with us, guys. It's been an interesting conversation talking to Adam and Clive. Elena?
Thank you so much for being on the show. I feel like we've learned a lot this time around,
Yes,
and
yes.
excited to see the work you have collaborated on soon in the future. We thank you for listening to Save Value. Stay tuned for a new episode, same time next week. And remember, you can see all the previous episodes by following us on social media and by checking YouTube and Spotify. I've been Elena,
And I am Rachel.
and we're going to see you same time next week.
Face Value, in collaboration with African Media Association, Migrants Commission, and 103 Malta's Heart.